All right, this week, one of the first Muslim women elected to Congress, Representative Ilhan Omar, questioned the U.S.'s handling of war crimes, stating, quote, "We have seen unthinkable atrocities committed by the U.S., Hamas, Israel, Afghanistan, and the Taliban," end quote, to which Republicans and some Democrats felt adding the U.S. and Israel to that list was offensive. What do you say about the US and Israel being included in that list? Let's start with Robbie Rock.
War. Good God, what is it good for? Supporting the U.S. military industrial complex, for one.
Gianni.
As an American, I agree. America needs to be on that list.
Okay. Lizzie.
As an American, I disagree.
Mm,
As an American, I disagree.
interesting. All right. I say she spoke the truth. I mean, the US has been in 19 wars since World War II and killed over 12 million people. That's a definition of atrocities. So, all right. So, Representative Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, aka AOC, blasted Dems for mischaracterizing her comments and fueling right-wing attacks. So, what do you think the lack of support? What do you think of the lack of support from the fellow Democrats, Lizzie?
I think one, as politicians, as people that are in the public sphere, in the public eye, I think we need to be more careful about how we word things, about our delivery when we have opinions about certain topics. Now, when I disagree with the connotation that the United States should be likened to terrorists. That's what I agree. That's what I disagree
Mhm.
with. Now, do I think that nation we have committed some atrocities and likened it to war? Absolutely. But that's completely different, in my opinion, from being a terrorist. However, Representative Omar came back. Initially, she did call out the people who were coming for her, who she said, these same representatives, the same congresspeople who call me on the phone because they want my vote on their initiative. They won't call me on my phone to have a discussion about this comment that I made. I agree with that. Like, not everything needs to be called out in the public or on Twitter. However, she did clarify what she meant. And so let me read you what she
Yeah.
said.
Okay.
She said, to be clear, the conversation was about accountability for specific incidents regarding those international criminal court cases, a moral comparison between Hamas and the Taliban and the US and Israel. And I agree with that.
Mhm.
I agree with that. I agree with. I think we do need to be called out on certain incidents, on specific incidents, but I do not equate the United States with the Taliban. That is something completely and totally different. And so I think, I think Nancy Pelosi could have given her a call first.
Oh,
I
definitely.
think I think her fellow Democrats, because and this is going to be very partisan of me. I really don't, expect anything much from Republican politicians, if you will. So it didn't surprise me that they came out for her in the public sphere. But I think if you're in the same party, she's afforded a call before you blast her.
Yeah.
She should be afforded a conversation before you blast her in the public sphere.
So, um, I didn't want to get too deep, but I have to disagree with you on there being a difference, a significant difference between terrorism and wars, because
That's not what I said.
okay, explain, clarify.
That, I didn't say that there was a difference between terrorism and wars. That never came out of my mouth. I
That
said,
you can't equate the atrocities from terrorism to the atrocities of war. Is that was the gist of
no,
what I understood?
I said you can't equate our participation in wars and defending our country in wars from an act of terrorism based on an ideology when we haven't been hit, when we have no offense in front of us.
But
You
isn't that
can't
what Israel? I'm not Israel. Isn't that what Hamas and Afghanistan are doing? Is trying to protect their lands, their homes, their.
what was the telling when they hit the United States and New York in 9/11?
They were making a statement. I'm not saying it's correct, but
And
I'm not
so
saying that it
They-
was. I'm not
They
saying
were
it was
using
much
the
different.
CIA.
It wasn't much different than us sending drones to blow up their
No.
buildings.
See, and that was
I
just a byproduct of training that they had received over the 80s to destabilize the area. It was a Cold War artifact that became its own entity, and it lashed out. It's it's
We're
unfortunately
calling their actions terrorism, but they're doing
because
very much what the U.S. and Israel have
but
done to them.
go back to
when your
what
chief export is democracy and capitalism, and you're bringing it to countries whether they want it to or not, I kind of struggle that the line gets blurred there. And
however,
really,
if you look at the totality of the Taliban, it's not just in specific. The totality of the Taliban is atrocities against women, atrocities against homosexuals, atrocities.
America has similar atrocities. Americans have similar atrocities throughout history.
But America
Sorry.
America does not have the same type of atrocities. That's what I'm saying. The whole purpose of the Taliban is to be very stifling. We control everything. There's no democracy or even an attempt at democracy in the Taliban. And so that's
I don't
why.
know that democracy is necessarily the right thing for those people.
But wait, what?
Why is democracy the right way for?
I'm not saying that they need to have a democratic government. What I'm saying is their ideology is completely different, and that's the
It
distinction.
doesn't necessarily mean wrong. It's just different.
That's the distinction that Omar made. She was not talking about the totality. She was talking about specific incidents, and I agree with her on that. I'm not saying that we as Americans are not without any guilt in a lot of the strife, a lot of the violence that we've caused across the world. However, we are not the Taliban. We are not.
Okay.
So
We're
we're
going
not.
we're gonna have
but
to agree
she's
to this.
talking
I know
about-
we're not
but she's
officially
talking about
Taliban.
specific war crimes, and they
I
should
think
not be
US and
they should
Israel
not be
need to be
tried and
replaced.
reviewed domestically, and I think that's the crux of it, and it wasn't clarified properly because it needs to be an international criminal court that
Sure.
reviews these things rather than a domestic court system that's going to be biased towards its military
Which is
forces.
totally right.
And I think you have a responsibility as a congressperson, as a public figure of our government, to be clear and concise with
Yes.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
Now, do I think that they should have come at her publicly before contacting her? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And again, I think that harkens to their previous bias that they have against her as a woman of color, and as a Muslim.
By the way,
However, I think that there is some responsibility on her part as well to make sure
That
that
it's
you are
clear.
clear when you make a statement.
Yeah, I told now that I agree with because I wasn't clear on what she was saying either. I had to reread it, go through it again, listen to it again. I just want to say, I'm not gonna have time to play it, but she's getting. I feel bad for her because she's getting death threats. Jewish Congress people are upset with her. Hamas even came back with backlash, so I kind of feel bad for her situation. But
The Hamas backlash was interesting because they were like, "How do you compare us to the United States?"
I know, right? And I agree with that in some ways. I mean,
Right?
but all right, that was a great quick fire question. I appreciate you guys. All right, now it is time.